Holy roly poly oly, folks. I apologize. I apologize for leaving you high and dry. Not my intention. Really, truly did not mean to do that. This last month brought me some unexpected technological delays, and I was unfortunately unable to stick to the schedule of podcast releases. But I'm back, baby, and I'm back with Kira Leach. This episode is so much fun. It brings so much color into the life of Kira Leach growing up in Denver and then making her, debut in Los Angeles, the mecca, if you will, of really entertainment, and the sort of grueling, gruesome process of carving a path there. But she also opens my eyes, and I know will open your eyes up to the sort of more optimistic, glass half full side of really carving your way in LA. She is now in Vegas, featured performer in The Awaken at the Win in Vegas. So cool. And featured guest instructor on Naughty Girl Fitness. Her credits include Camila Cabello, Becky G, TLC, Michael Bublé. It really does go on. And this was just a delightful chat for me to have. So, Kira, thank you for taking the time. Audience, listeners, please, without further ado, give a warm, well-rounded applause for Kira Leach. Enjoy.
There we
There we
go.
go.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's nice to talk to you finally.
And like see your face and just like meet you, which is so weird. But
Exactly.
I feel like for some reason, because my friend Ryan, I don't know if your name came up in conversation or if I've just seen some videos or just how small this world is.
Yeah.
But I like stumbled on your work and truly just fell in love and wanted to get you on. So I
Oh, thank you
appreciate
so much.
yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. I hope your sort of day so far has gone okay. I know sometimes we have to reschedule and shift things
Totally.
around, so happy we could
Totally.
make it work.
Yes, I'm so grateful that you were able to push it back.
Yeah, absolutely. And my day kind of got wonky too, or else I'd have a free afternoon. I'm in sort of the last chunk of our show rehearsals right now before we start the install process on board, because I'm doing
Oh,
some
wow.
directing work with celebrity, and so it's like just wrapping up at the odds and ends that we're kind of like cleaning up and
Yeah.
props and costumes and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
schedules have been all over the place. But with all that said, welcome. Thank you for taking the time. I usually just have sort of these episodes go very organically, with the start kind of just being a little bit of background on the guests, who they are, where they grew up, and we just kind of go from there. It's a super chill, fun,
Amazing.
and lighthearted conversation, really just to offer the opportunity. A couple of opportunities come from this actually, and it's been as of late that I've noticed that guests get sort of this like aha moment sometimes, which is so cool because they connect dots on like how things kind of
Came
have
to
worked
be.
out in there. Yeah, exactly. But then also just to like provide some insights, sometimes advice and lessons from people that are living in the world of the entertainment industry, for those that are interested in pursuing a career in it. So that's really the purpose and the goal. So with all that said, Kira, welcome, and please just give yourself a little introduction.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me today. Well, my name is Kira Leach. Actually, recently Kira Kaufman because I got married May 5th of this year, which has been just like absolutely incredible. But that's a whole different story. So, Kira Kaufman now, I guess.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. I was born in Richmond, Virginia. Um, but I quickly moved to Colorado at about the age of 4 with my parents. So I'm an only child, and at that time, my mom was just like moving around for work, and she thought Colorado would be a good place for us. And looking back, I'm so happy that she thought that because I feel like Colorado, it is where I'm from. Like, even though I wasn't born there, like, I'm definitely a Colorado
Cool.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what makes you, for people that aren't familiar with that area, sort of what makes you say that, like thinking about it?
I would say that the stereotype around people from Colorado is that they're, like, pretty chill and that they're very outdoorsy and just, like, love being outside and connected with nature and love, like, going to coffee shops and breweries. Just going anywhere to chill out, essentially, is, like, a very
I love that.
Colorado
A
thing.
girl after my own heart. I have some family living in Colorado and I connect with them like once or twice a year. And every time I do, it's like, oh my God, you're so down to earth, wholesome. And
I love
I
that. They
freaking
fit the
love them.
stereotype too. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, anyway, sorry to cut you off, but continue.
Oh my gosh, no, please. So, kind of from a very, very young age, from the time I was walking, I was always just, like, being super loud and dancing on, like, tables around my house, and so my parents were just like, "Okay, typical story, like, let's get this little girl, like, some outlet for her energy," right? So, I started dancing at a rec center when I was 4, like, in Colorado, and just immediately became obsessed with it and obsessed with, like, learning, I think, over anything. It didn't matter if I was the only kid in the class, my teachers were always really surprised that I was able to, like, pay attention because I was just so
That
interested.
is like a gift
Yeah,
in having a student that can like focus and especially in like dance. We go into dance because like you just said, we have all this energy and we need to like let it all out. And so oftentimes you get
yes,
these itty bitties that are just like zoo, 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 all over the place.
exactly.
But that's so cool. So from an early age, you were kind of like a sponge and able to absorb. Would you
Yeah,
say because a lot of the guests that I've had on, there's been like a few in the States, but I would say the bulk of them thus far have been from Canada.
mhm,
There is slight differences that I've witnessed as I continue in this industry in terms of the competitive studio aspect. You said you started at a rec facility. Did you
yes.
know at the time that there was like that sort of cutthroat competitive studio environment as well? And kind of, yeah, no.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, but I at the time, like, neither me or my parents knew anything really about, like, that level of dance, especially for kids under 18, and kind of that, like, rigorous mode. Like, my parents had no idea, and I was just kind of going wherever they would take me, as
Yeah.
a little kid. I was like, "Anything I can get is great." I moved to a smaller studio that did, like, 3 competitions a year when I was, like, 8 years old, because that's when I was like, "Oh, I wanna do this more, like, I wanna take more classes."
Yeah.
My parents kinda took me to a different place in the area, like a whole separate studio as opposed to a recreation center.
Right. And would you say that the competitions that you went to, were they competitive in the foundation of it, or was it more just like for for the love of dance sort of thing?
Yeah, the competitions that we frequented with that studio were definitely more just, like, for the love of dance. It wasn't a super, super cutthroat environment, I would say. And then all of a sudden, when I think I was 11 years old, I went because I heard about some of these other competitions that were happening. And I think I went to a 24/7 or something
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
my
Come on,
best friend.
24/7.
Yeah, well, I didn't even like, I didn't pay to take the class. We just literally went to watch the other studios because we were like, we want to see what's going on at these things. And then we saw one dance from a studio that we both ended up moving to, called Sweatshop, where I
Okay.
graduated. And
And
then
was it
after
just like, was it the abilities of the dancers that were attending 24/7, that convention you went to, that you sort of like immediately was magnetized to and went, I want to sign up at that studio?
Yeah, I think that honestly, at that other studio I was at, I was sort of in a high level even for being kind of young. Like, I was in a bunch of dances with older kids and things like that, and
Yeah.
so going to 24/7, I was like, "My gosh, there are so many people that are way better than me."
Right. It was a little bit of an eye opener.
Yeah, it definitely was, and so that studio, I think the creativity of some of the dances is what just, like, blew me away, and then there were so many kids that were so talented from Sweatshop, and so I was just kind of like, I don't care if I, like, could not dance in the front row, and it's true, like, when I first moved there, I was in the back left corner of every single dance that I was in, but I was just happy to, like, be
Yeah.
there
You
and
will
have the
work your
ability.
way to the front sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's wicked. And were you a kid that was in other extracurriculars? How was school? How, like, public school, friend groups, like all that stuff? Were you
Mhm.
balanced in all of it? Like,
Well, when I went to high school, I started going to an art school, like a charter school. So I went to Denver School of the Arts for ninth through 12th grade. Before
okay.
that, I was going to a generic public school. And I would say that I had a little bit more of a balance when I was going to public school of like hanging out with friends that weren't dancers and then going to dance. But kind of as soon as I entered high school, I just put my head down and I was dancing like 2.5 hours at school and then immediately going to the studio and doing like 6 hours almost every
Yeah.
day.
Eat,
So I wouldn't
sleep,
say
breathe,
that I had
dance.
a great balance, but I honestly wouldn't take back anything I did because I had the best community of people around me and like such healthy, supportive, like friends. I was very lucky to like be in.
Sweet. That's great to hear hindsight sort of thing. Like looking back, there's sort of no really regrets or anything like that. When I've had the chance to kind of explore your work, the immediate things that I know that you've probably heard this lots is just your pure ability, and just like raw talent to fight, and your grit and level of energy. In all of the pieces I've seen you in. Like, would you say that that's how you were from day one, or did that grow as you started to like feed that hunger for that competition, competitive spirit in you? How did that fall into play?
Wow, that's a great question. And thank you so much.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of a mix, honestly. Like when you see videos of me as a young kid, I wasn't ever the most talented in the room, like ever. But I always did have just kind of like a I'm gonna give it 100% sort of energy. But I do think that, especially over the past like 4 years, I've been able to find more like trust in my performance and like I've been able to kind of know like I've worked for so many years to get to a place where I should be able to trust myself and I think that that's given me a level of like confidence in myself also that I'm not really like questioning as much because I'm like no I have worked so hard and if that's not for like building my trust up in myself then I have no idea what it's for.
Oh, cool. I like that perspective. At this age, then you're talking about high school, going to a performing arts high school, balancing, the curriculum of the education system in Colorado, as well as trying to just like figure out the next steps. Were you somebody that looked towards the future and planned things, or were you so easy breezy, like whatever comes my way is sweet?
I I never was going to not dance. I always knew that I wanted to like keep dancing. But I do think that over the 4 years of high school, my plans changed a lot. And I would be super invested in, like, I want to do this, I want to move here. Oh, sorry, my cat.
That's okay. She said, "Excuse me. What are you doing?"
But yeah, I don't know, that's a hard one.
Yeah. So then, Colorado to when you graduated, did you do post secondary or did you go launch yourself fully into the commercial world?
Okay. I
Buckle up.
yeah, right. So part of all of those plans changing was like when I first started high school, I for sure was like, "Oh, I should go to college for dance." Like I was like, "Oh, I definitely want to do that." Because at the time I also it was a goal of mine to be in some sort of professional concert company as well because the studio that I trained at was also like very, very concert based. Like we did more classic jazz and ballet than
Okay,
anything.
cool.
So at that point, I was like, oh, that was something I was super interested in. And then around my sophomore year of high school, I ended up like seeing all of these YouTube videos of people in LA, like Janestra, and like all of these crazy people. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I started learning dances just like in my room by
Cool.
myself. And I was like, oh, this is so fun. And then I was kind of like, oh no, that's the kind of dancing I want to do. And so because all my friends were still applying for colleges and things, I still applied some places, but I was like, oh, I just want to move to LA. Boom, boom, boom.
And
But through
parents, were they supportive of this?
yes, yeah. My
Yeah,
parents
that's
have
cool.
always been super supportive. I think that they did challenge me to think and be like, just think like if you don't get a degree, you won't be able to do these things, but maybe if you do, you won't be able to go this other route. And so they definitely talked me through it. But they're very supportive. They're amazing
That's
and have
amazing.
always
That's
been
amazing
super
to hear.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So then, LA, did you have somebody to lean on? Did you have any connections already in the city, or was it purely like burlesque moment where you move
We're
there and
just
it's a
showing
whole
up.
new world?
Well, I actually did through Denver School of the Arts, I went to a national high school dance festival where they had this huge, huge college panel audition. And there was a really small school at the time called Studio School in LA. And I was offered a full scholarship and they offered to pay for my housing as well.
Whoa.
So I was like, okay, let me try it because the campus was in downtown LA. I was like, okay, great, let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I tried that. And then I kind of, once I got there, I realized like, oh, I'm spending 2 hours every night driving to Burbank to take class. And a lot of my teachers at school also taught outside of the school. And I was like, I personally felt like it wasn't the best use of my time. But I feel like it could be different for everyone. But that kind of goes to this question where I did already have a sort of connection with Janestra, and I had met some other choreographers around that I had been frequenting their classes like constantly. And so I was like, oh, I
And is
want to
that
keep.
those connections were made because you put yourself into those rooms?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So then you had I I feel like just from a third party's perspective, I always because I've gone to Millennium many of times myself, but being a Canadian, there's just this like constantly nervous, anxious, overwhelmed to enter into those spaces.
Yeah.
Is it different for you? Would you say even like your peer group would argue otherwise for them, or is everyone in the same boat? They just show it differently. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I honestly think that there might be some people who have grown up in LA or the industry who don't feel like that, but I most definitely felt like that and still feel like it in some rooms. I think that after having like lived in LA for 5 years, I got to a point where I it wasn't as much that like those rooms still didn't make me feel super welcome, but more of me just feeling like okay with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
accepting of some of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that that's a very normal thing for people to feel just because there's so much hype around LA and dance. Like obviously it's such like a mecca for dance and
Yeah.
industry jobs. And so it feels like any room that you go into, someone could remember you for the tiniest reason and you could be like messed up forever. Like it feels like it
Totally.
could be so
Totally.
dramatic.
It
Um
feels life or death sometimes. Like it
yes,
just
it does.
feels, you know what I mean? And like, and it also feels like that one Tuesday night 8 p.m. class is end all be all. Like this
Totally.
Tuesday, November, whatever. It's like a little bit.
Breathing exercises on
Yeah. Yeah. So, kind of curious to know then how you supported yourself living in LA. Did you have part-time jobs? Was family able to support you at all? Like just like the other aspects of, that living in LA that we don't often talk about.
totally. The really important things too. The really important things. So after I dropped out of studio school, my parents were still helping me at the time because we had a sort of agreement that since I wasn't going to college, they would financially like pay for my living situation, which I was so grateful for. Yeah. So I had an apartment in Burbank, but then sadly, COVID happened like 2 months after I got that apartment. So I went back to Colorado and kind of stayed there for a minute, came back, was living in that apartment. They still supported me for a few months because I was doing some like underground training almost every day. And then a couple months after that, I got a job at an acai bowl place to kind of like
Hey,
start taking some of that financial burden
yeah,
off.
yeah.
And then 3 months after that and during that time, I was also, like, working as an assistant for a bunch of classes and
Yeah,
starting
and
to
I feel like that's worth pausing on because you have done a lot of work in the convention world.
yeah,
You've gone to many yourself, but you've also like toured, I believe, and done some assisting with some major performers and choreographers. So touch on that a little bit because it's really cool what you've done.
thank you. So yeah, right like, right after I got that job at the acai bowl place, I started touring with TLC, and that's the group that I toured with for, like, the longest amount of times. That year in 2022, we did a US tour, and then the next year, oh wait, sorry, 2021, we did a US tour. And then 2022, almost the whole year, we were out with them, kind of like all over the world, which was just the best experience ever,
Wild.
honestly.
Can you give
Yeah.
a little focus point on what a day in the life would look like, or a day, a weekend in the life of one of those events would be like for you?
I mean, like, we had a lot of dates where we would like for instance in Canada, we have a show in New York and so you kind of like are hanging out in New York during the day until call time for sound check like 2 or 3. So I think we walked around and got some pizza and walked around a pier and just like did some fun stuff because we're lucky and dancers and have like time off during the day while they're setting everything up. And then we do sound check, usually eat catering after sound check, and then do the show and sometimes get directly onto a bus or a van. And I think from New York, we drove through border control. So we stopped at border control at like 3 a.m. to get
Oh,
there, but you're just, like, sleeping on the van, and then you'll get to the hotel in your next city at, like, 5 a.m. and then sleep until bus call time for the next show, which it's like
gee.
the schedule can be so.
Recovery? Was there like team recoveries, team warm-ups, team cool downs, anything like that?
I mean, for most of those tour dates, there were only 4 dancers, so it was just me, 1 other girl, and 2 guys who are, like, my family now.
Wow.
But we would always, like, warm up together pretty much every single day. We would also go on a super long walk because we just, like, loved exploring areas on foot and just
Yeah.
seeing what there was around the venue. So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of stretching, a lot of Theraguns
Yeah.
and
Come on, sponsor
pillows.
Theragun. Yeah. Um, cool. So then from your experience on tour, did that kind of like was that one of your major sort of jobs that you'd say you'd booked in the professional world? And then did it start to like spiral into other things? What came after that experience?
Yeah, I do think that to a degree, having that be a big thing on my resume, because up until that point, I think I'd done a couple of music videos as a dancer, and I'd assisted on some projects, which is really, really incredible, but just not always relevant for me to put on a dance resume. Like, even though I got to assist and help, like, prep choreography for SZA, if I wasn't on the stage, then it, like, didn't.
Which is wild. Hey,
I
like
know,
that's wild. Like
I know.
assist, help in any aspect of somebody like SZA. Like what? Yeah, it's a wild concept to try and get our heads around choosing what is a credit or what is a credible credit, like all of that
Exactly.
stuff. Because I fully understand it, but it is bonkers because it does set you
Yes.
up for the mindset of like constantly just trying to one up yourself sort of thing. And so it is
Exactly.
that much more important for you to have the mindset, the maturity, the capabilities to just check in with yourself to make sure that you have sort of your own standards, your own credible credits, like all of that
Exactly.
stuff before
Yeah.
leaning on those like external sources of, what's the not gratification,
Like validation.
validation. Exactly. So sorry, that was such a like little tangent,
My
but
God, no, no.
it is
It was
wild. It's wild, really, when you think
it
about it.
was it totally.
So then you were talking about some of the jobs leading out of that. Continue with that because I think it's I mean, I have some written down, but I want you to kind of connect some dots if you can.
Yeah, sure. Well, after that, during the first t world tour with TLC in 2022, in the first half of the year, I was supposed to be in the Freak Show Monsters cast. So I got casted in that, but I couldn't do it because of the job. And so then when I got back, I was lucky enough to be moved to the Vision cast, which I think that TLC going on tour with TLC, putting that on my resume, I think that doing Vision and meeting Nick Demora and then connecting with almost all the choreographers at Radix, those have been like the 3 things that kind of pushed me further into getting more
Yeah.
jobs because, like, I mean, even a bunch of the experiences that I've had that I can't even put on my resume that make me understand what, like, being professional on a job even means are because of, like, Cassandra Chavez and being like, working underneath her and kind of learning from and learning what certain expectations are in certain areas so that when I show up on a job, I can immediately, like, be there.
The
And I
standards
think
there. Yeah.
exactly, and having her recommendation, having, like, a person like Nick Demora or Tucker Barkley's recommendation is just it's all about trust, which is, like, what people always say. And so I think I finally those things, like, built got me to a level where people were like, "Oh, I trust you." And I was just
Bingo. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because because there's only so like 8 counts aside, like ball changes, step jumps, all of that aside, at the end of the day, really, there's a lot of us that can do those steps so frickin' well. Yes, we are
Totally.
all very unique and we have our own ways of, dancing those 8 counts. But I can't remember who I was just talking to about this. It's like, but what is on your shoulders and how you hold yourself in a room is the frickin' bread and butter,
Totally.
to create that sustainable, long-lasting career. Because I mean, there's a lots of behind the scenes stuff, sort of connections you make backstage or the connections you make in the rehearsal room, and all of that goes so far and
Yeah.
should not be overlooked. So it's
Yeah.
really neat to hear that you've kind of clocked that, and you're aware of like what figures, what idols have been able to help you get to the point that you're at right now. I want to take time, I want to make sure I take time to ask you about actually a few things. So I know that you've worked, were you a part of a tour of Michael Bublé, or did you have an experience just dancing one off with him? Like, where is that? I love him.
Oh yeah, I was I helped prep the choreography with Chase Hudson for, and then I was also in his Higher music video.
That is
The
so
crazy
cool.
one that Derek Huff directed. It was absolutely
That's
wild.
wild. I love that. He's a
Yeah.
Canadian, so I just feel like I'm extra like him.
He was honestly like out of all of the like stars that I've conversed with, he was just like the most like I want him to be my uncle. Like he was just
Yeah,
so sweet and like loving and in between every take he was like, "You guys are amazing. Thank you." And like you don't
good.
always get from people at all. So it was really nice. He was telling us about how like his son helped write the song and it was just so cute. Yeah.
Those are moments that you don't forget, and they last a long time. So that's really, or they mean more. It like touches somewhere in your heart and means a lot to the team that's working on projects like that. Um, I I want to talk about Vegas, but before that, I want to bring in Nasty Girl Fitness a little bit because I know that you work on that. And so that's a whole different ball game, I feel like. How did that start to come into your life?
So, Naughty Girl Fitness was started. No,
Sorry,
I
naughty
think
girl. I said nasty girl.
no, it's okay. It's okay. A lot of people call it Nasty Girl. It's a
Naughty,
common
nasty.
misconception. It's all good. But Naughty Girl Fitness was started by Janelle Genestra approximately 3 or 4 years ago. I want to say it's like 3.5 years ago officially,
Okay.
since we've had our own website and all of that. Essentially, Janelle has been one of the most vital dance mentors and now one of my like best friends in life as I've grown into adulthood. But especially
Yeah.
as like an 18, 19, 20-year old, she was instrumental in like teaching me not just about dance, but about dance with life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the relationship that plays, and that's important.
It is. And she always would be so straightforward with me that especially when you're looking to work in the industry in LA and you're building up the courage to go in these different rooms and places and put yourself out there, that it's so important that you really, really, really are aware of your mental health and like where you're at. Cause it's so easy to glaze over that like for a dream. But she was always like, take deep breaths, know how you really feel. And like that's some of the best advice she's given me that I could give to other people too, for sure.
Cool.
Is like,
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, and even still in rooms where even when I'm assisting and I'm overwhelmed, like I'll turn around for a second and close my eyes and just like do a big deep breath. And usually it helps so much. Helps so much.
Like we were talking about on that random Tuesday 8 p.m. millennium dropping class.
Exactly.
Sometimes you just need to take a deep ass breath.
You do. You need a deep ass breath for sure. Um, I actually feel like that's the perfect segue into talking about Naughty Girl because Janelle makes it so like you are not doing this to be skinny. You're doing this to feel good and to feel excited about life and to feel excited about your body. And that's why, like, Naughty Girl Fitness, we have a bunch of different categories. We have like sexy and spicy, we have lit and crunk, we have like all of these things so you can pick what you're feeling, pick how long you want to work out. And I started with the company being one of Janelle's demos and like queuing things for her and being one of the people in the back. And one day she was like, Kira, you're such a good teacher. Like, let's make you a teacher. And I was just like, yes, let's do it. Like, I was so honored. I think I cried the first time that she talked to me about it because I've seen firsthand in the comments and things people send me in the videos, like, she and us by extension have been able to, like, actually help people, which is the most
Change
beautiful.
lives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
change lives for like, it sounds so cheesy, but it's true. And I'm so honored to be a part of that, and I'm even more honored because I get to have fun with my friends and, like, twerk on camera.
Totally. And so for guests that don't know, I'm gonna tag Naughty Girl
Yeah,
Fitness. I'm gonna tag you, I'm gonna
please.
tag so many of the people that we've mentioned, but for guests that don't know, it's online sort of fitness, movement, dance kind of collaboration, no videos, and people can follow along. Are they only live? Are they recorded?
We have a website and we also have an app. So the app you can get on your TV, it's on the App Store, it's on Roku, it's just Naughty Girl Fitness, and the subscription, I think you get 1 month free, and then it's 11.11 a month, and you have access to, like, hundreds of different kinds of classes. It's me
On Make a Wish?
it's me, Rudy, Janelle, and Jazzy. So there's only 4 instructors, it's, like, pretty intimate. There's even classes where we just don't talk at all, and you can just follow us if you don't want us to talk at you. It's great,
Of this. I'm immediately
right?
gonna look this back up. Okay, so coming out of that then, segueing into maybe some of your current work, because you're still doing Naughty Girl Fitness, even though you're not actually living in LA anymore, right?
Yes, I just actually moved 2 months ago, which is
Crazy.
crazy. Yeah, I kind of
Crazy.
my husband and I had been talking for so long about wanting a little bit more
You have a
space.
husband now.
I know, I'm so lucky. He's literally the best. He's the absolute best. And we actually met working for TLC, which is so crazy.
So was he one of the dancers?
No, he's not a dancer. He works in or worked in audio for TLC.
Whoa, okay, this is cool. I love hearing sort of like stories of departments or like
Yeah,
interdepartments.
right.
Like I just love that. I love that so much. So then you two are you've moved from LA.
Moved. I did an audition early summer for a show out here called Awakening, which I have a couple of friends at. And it was a long process, long audition process with a callback, waited for a while to hear back. But we had already kind of been talking about moving to Vegas in the next couple years and like having some space. And we're so close to LA that we can drive out anytime. And so I ended up getting a contract with Awakening, and we were like, why not just try it? So we're here.
Yeah,
And
trying it.
we're trying it, and I'm driving back next week to film more Naughty Girl Fitness, just, like, on my days off, and that's kind of how it's been is, like, I'll go back to do things on my days off and see my friends and hang
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Frick. It sounds like genuinely you're living it, you're breathing it, you're doing the shit, pardon my French, that so many dancers, performers, artists in this industry work so hard. you get to. So I tip my hat off to you literally because it's not easy. There's a lot of behind the scenes work. You're away from family and you've expressed your connection to your parents. So I know that that's not easy leaving home. You love Colorado, but you left it. Like there's so much like of the human experience that I think we can so easily brush off and pass by. But getting to the point that you're at right now is freaking unbelievable. So I hope, and it sounds like, that you do kind of cherish these moments and are grateful
Absolutely.
for them. Yeah, just I think it's good to hear, even for guests that might be in sort of that same phase or same sort of chapter or similar in parallel, or even those that are looking to pursue, just like don't
Mhm.
pass by, like you said, those how you feel as a human
Yeah,
before you just continue to take on new work and push yourself to get new credits and all of that complex stuff. So,
yeah, I absolutely. I think it's so important to remember that dance, it's so incredible and it's such a fantastic art form, but like especially in your early 20s or whenever you're pursuing this career, like just remember that you're still like living your life
yeah,
and
yeah,
that there are things that are so important that might actually not have anything to do with dance, and it's okay to give those things attention and give dance attention.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's how you find the balance that is needed to make it all work. Even for myself, like I'm reflecting on catching myself this last week, starting to now explore the world of directing. For some odd reason, this last week, I have chosen to have this outlook of that's not enough. You should have done the choreography route first. And it's
Mm,
so toxic. Like I catch myself doing that. And
yeah,
I think it's just all I'm gonna say is I'm glad I've caught myself. I'm aware of it and working towards switching the narrative, right? And that's all you can ask for.
totally.
But it's scary. Like I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. I don't like how fast that got into my brain. But it's who I am, and so I it's a continuous work in progress.
Yeah, I mean, it's so I think we forget that it's so natural to be uncomfortable in new situations because, like, as humans, we're not really wired to be in most situations that we're in now in modern day life. Like, it's kind might be a good analogy is like with battles. I was watching a battle the other day here in Vegas and it was incredible. And I was talking to a couple of my friends and they were like, they battle and they were like, no, you will literally never feel like you're ready. Like you will never feel like you're ready. You just have to go. You
Yeah,
just have to
yeah,
go. Like, and so it's like, it might be super uncomfortable to like feel that way, but also I don't think anyone who's ever done anything great like felt super comfortable going
yeah,
into it, to be fair.
yeah. I think that's a really good point. Yeah, it's a really good message for freaking guests or for listeners to hear. Kira, before we come into the final sort of my lighthearted chunk of the episode, I want to ask you about. I think we touched on it earlier, but are you the type to like plan and schedule and do all that stuff, or do you really just take like contract by contract, kind of just easy going with that?
I think I'm inherently the person to try to plan everything and to try to kind of anally like piece things together, but I actually think that at least while living in LA. It's a little bit different out here because of the consistency of my contract, obviously. But when I was in LA, it felt kind of like it made me have to loosen my grip a little bit just because there were so many jobs that like I got confirmed for and then unconfirmed for last minute and, like
Released from. Yeah.
yeah, or, like, even after not even being on hold, but being confirmed or this or that, or, like, the whole job is canceled the day before rehearsals start, and things like that. It's the frustrating truth, but they happen all the time, like, all the time things change, and so, to a degree, you can plan certain things, but if you keep trying to plan some things, then those jobs aren't gonna work out for you because you're just gonna, like if you don't keep your schedule open enough to a point, which is so it's such a difficult thing.
Yeah.
Such a difficult thing.
Yeah.
But to a degree, you have to be kinda open, and I think that LA, if anything, kind of taught me that, and for better or for worse, because I don't think that those things are always canceled are always a good thing at all, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah. So then would you say in order to keep peace of mind, do you recommend, like, I know you got that acai job. Do you recommend getting like jobs in the hospitality industry, something that isn't completely out of the dance industry, or what are your thoughts on that? So for anyone listening that might want to pursue time in LA, sort of how do they get their foot in?
I think, a lot of people work at coffee shops. A lot of people work at coffee shops, which depending on the coffee shop and depending on their scheduling, I think you just have to make it a priority to find a place that knows that there might be a day where you call in an hour before and you're like, "There's a last minute audition. I need to go." And I know that those places aren't super easy to come by, but they do exist in LA because there are people who own restaurants who are in the entertainment industry and they kind of get it to a degree. Or even if you bartend at night, because not a lot of auditions or classes are going to be in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like leaving as much wiggle room as you can while still feeling safe in the amount of money that you're
Yeah,
making
totally.
is
It is a
like the
balancing act.
best.
It is completely a balancing act, and there isn't an answer that will fit everyone because people
Absolutely.
book jobs left, right, and center, but also people don't book jobs left, right, and center. Some
Exactly.
people's careers kind of start way earlier, and some people's careers start way later. Like there isn't fit all sort of answer, but you do just have to, like you said, don't wait until you're ready because that feeling will never
Yeah.
come.
No.
Try the damn thing that you're curious about because
Yeah.
you'll always sort of have that thing lingering. You will. Cool. Thank you for kind of exploring that. I do want to wrap up just with a few lighthearted questions, kind of like my fire round, kind of
Still.
would you rather or just choose one or the other. First thing that comes to mind.
Okay. Okay,
Okay,
great.
sweet. So my first one that I have, okay, here. So staying in or going out, what would you choose?
Staying
Staying in.
staying in for sure.
Book or movie?
Recently, book.
Okay, cool. Is there a genre?
I'm definitely a nerd. I love like fantasy books. I've actually been reading like the Game of Thrones books by George R. R. Martin over the last couple of weeks, and I've made an embarrassingly big dent in in how much I've read.
Oh, that's amazing. I love to hear that. Personally have been so okay, this is a sidebar, but I love nonfiction books just because I'm like a sponge. I just want to learn everything as much as possible.
Yeah.
I then have now joined a book club because a good girlfriend of mine has sort of introduced it into my life, but they don't read nonfiction. They definitely read fiction. And so I'm like, okay, this is good for me because it's a matter of now coming back to enjoying reading because for so long I've been forcing myself to read these nonfictions. And in fact, the last book I read was called Guns, Germs, and Steel. And it's taken like it reads like a textbook almost,
Okay.
for me at least. And so it
Yeah.
took me so long and it's kind of sucked the joy out of reading for me. So this is A new start for me is to join this book club because it's just like once a month we'll, converse about it. But what is this week? This month it's Karen Slaughter Pretty Girls. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a thriller.
Okay, cool. I'll have to look into
So
it. So fun.
I'm curious. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
curious.
I also I just read Women Who Run with the Wolves also, and that is an amazing.
Somebody just recommended that to me. Was it
I
good?
think you should read it. It's incredible. It's a bunch of like stories, and then she kind of like breaks down the stories in a bunch of different contexts, and it's incredible.
I think my one of my guests, Lauren Ritchie, I don't know if you know her or not, but she loves to read as well. She actually recommended that book to me as well. So
Oh my
clearly I need
gosh.
to read this book. I
Yes.
I will be reading that. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Of course.
Okay, favorite way or not favorite way because I asked this the wrong way to my last guest. Would you prefer method of travel by boat or flight for the rest of your life?
Ooh, honestly, I think I'd pick boat just because I really like being around water. I feel like I could encounter some problems with the boat, but I'm
I
so
mean,
sick of the
without thinking that far, we can, yeah, okay. And then this one I'm curious of because of your time living in by the coast, but also Colorado. Would you prefer oceans or mountains?
It's so difficult.
I know it's rude, isn't it rude?
I know that's so hard. Honestly, I pick mountains.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, yeah.
But where I grew up, Edmonton, Alberta, Banff and Jasper, like the Rocky Mountains, were a cute, like 2.5 hour sort of drive.
Yeah.
And we spent like we would spend weekends there going snowboarding and skiing and stuff. But then when I graduated, I moved to Vancouver, and so then I was by the coast, but it's the Pacific and it's cold. And
So
we were
cool.
still in the mountains and everything. So I still think like my heart says the mountains
Yeah,
for sure.
totally. I think that if I had lived maybe not near the Pacific Ocean, I might feel differently. I still love the ocean, but it being cold is definitely a buzzkill for me.
Yeah, and I guess it's a good. I'm living in Miami now, and so every Sunday I'll go bike to the beach. And it is lovely. Like I absolutely love it. But I'm every time I'm like, but I would rather the mountains. Anyways, oh my goodness.
I understand.
Okay, pizza or pasta?
Pizza.
Winter or summer?
I gotta pick summer. Yeah, I do really like winter, but I think summer takes the cake for me.
Me too. Music or podcast?
Music for me. I do listen to some podcasts, but I'm constantly listening to music, like
Yeah.
constantly. Yeah.
And is that
So
because you're choreographing and dancing to it, or do you genuinely take time to like just listen to the music and not like do that?
I think it depends, like, it'll just kinda happen sometimes for me, but a lot of the music that I listen to isn't always music that I would choreograph to, if that makes sense, like, they're
Yeah.
songs that I love so much, but they're not a good, like, dance song. So but if
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
good
yeah. I
song, then
hear you.
there's definitely something happening in my brain. Yeah.
Okay, then my last one, which I it's my favorite one actually, is if you could gift the world with one personality that everyone had to have, personality trait, what would it be? I know. Deep breaths. Deep breath.
It's a big question, especially today.
Okay, fair enough.
It might sound a little basic, but I think empathy. I think that
Mm.
everyone could use a deeper level of empathy because I think it's not just about listening to what other people have to say, but really hearing them and hearing
Mhm.
how what they're explaining affects them in their everyday life. And I feel like that's where some most disconnect happens.
I
So,
really couldn't agree with you more. The power of being empathetic towards somebody means that you have the ability, at least in my eyes, to understand, not even understand, but realize that you're not in their shoes, you haven't lived their life, you don't know exactly what's going on. You don't have to feel what they're feeling. You don't have to necessarily copy paste exactly everything about them, but just to be able to understand the fact that they've
Mhm.
had a completely different experience than you. And
Mhm.
maybe their intention isn't evil or whatever it
Exactly.
is, whatever situation. Maybe it's just all they know or
Yeah,
whatever the case may be.
totally.
That's a
Totally.
I haven't gotten that answer yet, but I freaking love it. Kira, it has been such a joy, a privilege, and an honor to take the time and chat with you, pick your brain. I am so stoked for the work that you are taking on for the next sort of projects that come your way, and whatever they may be, you wholeheartedly deserve everything that comes to you. So, I hope that we can actually connect in person, not
Yeah.
only within the dance world, but also just as humans, because you're such a good light. And thank you for being the figure that you are in this community.
Thank you so much. Like, wow, you saying that just means a whole lot to me, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time and, like, thinking of me. Never been on a podcast before, so it's my first time.
Yay.
Like, super grateful that you wanted to bring me on and,
Yeah,
that you feel that way, so
absolutely.
I hope we do get to meet
Absolutely.
soon.
Yes. All right. Well, take care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of your, what day of the week is it? Was it Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Enjoy the
Wednesday.
rest of your Wednesday.
You too. I hope you have a great
Okay. So
one.
much love. Take care. And just like that, we are wrapped. We've wrapped another episode on Briggs and Co., where we are leaving average for Joe. I promise to try my best to have that consistent podcast release schedule back on track, team. Back on track, okay? So next week, keep your eyes open for my next guest. I'm super, super excited for the next one. And I hope you are all as well. I want to just ask that you please don't forget about sharing, about commenting, about messaging me with any feedback, any comments, any requests. It's the only way that I know I am hitting on the nerves or hitting on the points that the audience, the listeners are curious about. I truly am doing this solely just to have great connections with other humans that I personally find are leaving average for Joe, and I hope that within that process, I provide some inspiration to those listening. And I love what I've been able to do for the last almost year now. So thank you for your support and continued support moving forward. So without further ado, have a wonderful day. Squeeze your loved ones extra tight, share some love and laughter in this world, and have a wonderful holiday season.